Hello everyone and welcome back to Clear Creek Solutions hydrology education videos. We tackled in an earlier video low impact designs, and so very closely entangled with that is something like green infrastructure. So we're going to cover what green infrastructure is used, the ideas of green cities, and what kinds of green infrastructure is being utilized across the world and in designs going forward. If you want to learn more about the different kinds of hydrology, we have something called the Ultimate Hydrology Guide, which breaks down many different ways that hydrology is analyzed in the industry. You can find that in the description box down below. But let's launch into this video here. So green infrastructures are constructions that support the approach of allowing stormwater mitigation and filtration to integrate with the natural environment. The key here is to mimic the natural water cycle. So because we have all this urban land, buildings, roads, sidewalks, etc., we're trying to find a way to recreate the pre-developed scene while also having the luxury of modern development, modern buildings. So the idea is if we can create facilities that integrate with the natural environment, mimic how the natural water cycle actually works, we can do our best to preserve the actual water cycle. We have many videos on the water cycle and different forms of pollution, so we can avoid forms of pollution, reenact the water cycle to a degree in these heavy urban areas. So that's kind of the purpose of green infrastructure. So we can achieve one, mitigation. Green infrastructure allows for the mitigation of rainfall events and runoff. This can prevent flooding and excessive pollution entering streams and water bodies. And then there's filtration. Facilities will allow for the filtration and infiltration of stormwater into the native soil. And this prevents pollutants and sedimentation from overwhelming local water bodies and storage facilities. So not only do we have a flooding issue when it comes to not having any stormwater facilities running off impervious land, we also have the pollution and sedimentation problem as well, because the natural water cycle is not taking place. So we can use green infrastructure in these urban areas to achieve both of these specific goals. So it's estimated that $978 billion is to be invested in green infrastructure worldwide in the year 2030. So there's a lot of investment going on. I believe that's going to be an increase from $700 billion. So quite an increase in the investment in green infrastructure, especially in these heavily urban areas. So what are some of the benefits of green infrastructure? We'll conserve many purposes and aid in stormwater designs. One, we can get that mitigation benefit that I talked about, help prevent flooding, help prevent different erosive flows from entering our streams. We can get filtration, so we can actually filter the water of dangerous toxins and pollutants that are found on roadways, that are found in cars, car tires. There's many different pollutants in urban environments. We also get integration. So these designs are more aesthetically pleasing and they can actually integrate with our natural environment, look proper to the region, and more culturally conducive to what's trying to be achieved by something like a green city, where we're able to integrate these designs with the local landscape. And then of course sustainability, because they're not being designed in the synthetic way and they actually mirror real life situations or real water cycle, they can actually be more sustainable if they're properly maintained to help continue the use of that facility. So let's talk about cities and green infrastructure. So area covered by green infrastructure will increase from 15% to 18% in the next decade. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, but if you think about large urban areas that span miles and miles and miles, if you had a 10 square mile city, which is, not even that big, and you're increasing from 15 to 18%, that's quite a bit more mileage that's being increased there, just in terms of what's going to be covered by green infrastructure. Private investments will also greatly increase in the use of green infrastructure for parks, gardens, campuses, and rooftops. And green infrastructure will likely be integrated with the construction of smart cities in the near future. And the goals include the ability for 70% of the population to reach some form of urban green infrastructure within 15 minutes of their living area. So let's talk about the different forms of green infrastructure. We've gone over some of them, but I want to cover about 8 here that are really key in future designs. So we have downspout disconnections. So this reroutes stormwater from entering storm drains and instead stormwater barrels, spouts, and permeable areas. So we're rerouting that water away from just going to the storm drain, and instead it can go into these different spouts and permeable areas where it can be filtered and stored for a short period of time. Then there's actually rainwater harvesting, which can reduce pollution by collecting runoff and storing rainfall for later use. And these could be used as aquifers could be a part of this. Nets and rain barrels are often used for rainwater harvesting. We don't want to do this too much because we don't want to remove too much water from the natural environment, but it is an option. Then there are rain gardens, and these are shallow, sunken areas that can collect rainwater from roofs and sidewalks for filtration and mitigation. You can see a picture there on the left. We have planter boxes, which are urban rain gardens with vertical walls and enclosed or open bottoms, and typically These are found in highly urban areas and they absorb runoff from streets, parking lots, and sidewalks. And then bioswales, which are also identified as bioretention. We have many videos on bioretention on our YouTube channel, so you can check them out there. And these facilities will collect stormwater and provide on-site treatment and management. So you can see that a small one there on the left is also large bioretention facilities that can help filter the water through multiple different soil layers. And then we have permeable pavements. So permeable or porous pavements allow for the infiltration and storage of stormwater beneath the surface while still providing roadway access. So we can still create a roadway, but instead of the water just running off and collecting pollutants, we can actually allow it to infiltrate through the pores of the pavement and be stored for a short period of time. And we have green streets and alleys, and green infrastructure is integrated into roadway and sidewalk designs. And these can include trees, rain gardens, permeable pavements, and bioswales. So the last one is green parking. This involves the use of green elements in parking lot design. Most often used is permeable pavement, but you can see this other green or shrubbery designs can be used as well. And these elements will reduce the heat island effect. So when we have lots of impervious area, you can get an increase in heat, you can get a heat island effect. But if we have these more permeable areas, such as these grass, trees, and pavements, it can reduce that effect overall. And then we have green roofs. So green roofs are covered with growing media to allow for mild infiltration and storage. You can see that we actually have plants on the top of the roofs. It can store some water, infiltrate it, and store it on the roof for a short period of time during an extreme rain event. We have urban tree canopy, and these trees can absorb stormwater in the leaves and branches. This is pretty just standard for what a tree does. And trees can be maintained by local homeowners and community members as well. And then we have land conservation, which is protecting open spaces and floodplains is vital for proper storage and flood mitigation. We have a video on floodplains as well. The idea is we don't want to develop every little piece of land, because when a flood occurs, we actually need floodplains and somewhere for the water to go, especially if there's a lot of impervious area and it's a large watershed for it to be stored and mitigated. So green cities allow for the integration of all these green infrastructure elements to collectively mitigate, filter, and detain stormwater in an aesthetically pleasing way instead of using synthetic elements. So the push for an increase in green infrastructure highly correlates with the effort to make cities more resilient to variant weather and intense storm events. As opposed to being very rigid, we now have a lot of flexibility when it comes to various stormwater events. So those are the works I referenced. As I said before, you can get that ultimate hydrology guide in the description down below. If you have any questions about green infrastructure, LID, or green cities, go ahead and leave a question or comment down below in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching. Anyways, we will see you guys next time.